Hello again, folks from YouTube. This is part two of my video of the kayak. Last video, I was telling you guys that I had invested in a Future Beach Trophy 126 kayak, fishing kayak, 10.5 feet long, and since the last video, I took it out onto a lake, a small lake, and it works fantastic out there. I also just got back from the Outer Banks, taking it out out into the Sound and the back creeks in the Outer Banks, and just wanted to let you guys know how this thing performed out there. If you're looking at making an investment in a kayak, a couple of things. One is I've got a 12-volt chrome battery in this front sealed compartment, and I've got it sealed in here. And I can tell you it's a great battery, worked great. Don't have to recharge it for a while. I bet you I could probably get at least 12 hours, if not more, running time on it. So the battery worked really well. This kayak is actually very light. I can actually pick it up, take it off the back of my truck, and I can actually walk it maybe 100 yards or less to the launch area. Now I do have a cart for longer walks, a little set of wheels you can tie in the back there, and you can wheel it. But given the weight, it's definitely manageable. A couple things worth mentioning when you're out, in big bodies of water or back bay creeks, areas like that. I can tell you a couple things. One is this Lowrance Fish Finder GPS was a godsend. Two reasons. One is that when I got into the back creeks, everything looks alike, and it was very easy to get turned around back there. Obviously people say, well, eventually you'll find your way out. That might be true, but you got to remember your range is limited because you're using paddle power here, and there's no engine on this thing, right? So you don't want to get turned around, get lost, get too tired, then you're kind of stuck. The other reason this came in handy is because in the creeks, you want to find certain areas to fish. Typically it's very shallow areas, and then followed by potential drop-offs or fishing holes that can go anywhere from 12 to 15 feet deep where I was fishing. So the trick was, how do you find the holes? So this came in super handy. The other thing I would say, folks, is this flag back here. This is a safety flag that I put on here specifically for large bodies of water. I can tell you that when you're out in the bay, out in those areas, you got jet skiers, you got small boats, you got commercial fishing boats, you got large tugboats, and I can tell you they're not looking for kayakers. So you definitely want to make yourself visible, and this fluorescent flag definitely made me feel very safe out there. If folks would come up on me, they would see me, they would see the flag, and they would slow down. The only thing I had to do was put a third rod holder back here, but this is a Hobie safety flag, and actually has a light here up on the top, for low light conditions, so folks can see you. So that worked out well. The other thing I would mention to you guys is that you might want to get one of these. This is a waterproof container. This actually floats, and as you can see, it's very bright. And I put my wallet, my keys, and my cell phone in here. You can attach it to the kayak, but since it floats, I just kind of put it over onto the side so I can access it. The other thing I added onto this was, I don't know if you can see that, but I took a stencil with some permanent marker, and I kind of labeled a scale here. So when I pull a fish up, and if I want to measure it in terms of is it a keeper or how long it is, I can easily measure it without having a separate measuring stick in here. So that worked out really well. Once again, I only take 2 rods with me, one in the rod holder, one in the rear, and usually one for casting, one for live bait fishing. The only thing I would probably add to this is a bait knife. I'm probably going to mount this bait knife to the top of my tackle box, right? Because it makes it real convenient when you're fishing with bait. Over here, I put a set of pliers on here. They're designed for specifically for more than any kind of fish, but in saltwater environments, you don't want to get your hand in there if you got stuff with teeth. So I just hung that right there. So this worked out. This setup worked out really well. Everything was convenient, very comfortable. You know, the one thing I love about this is the seat. You know, I sat in this seat several times, at least, 4 hours plus, and very comfortable, very comfortable. I didn't have any pains in my back or my legs, and it's ergonomically designed really well. Very, very comfortable seat. And I tell you, it's a big thing you want to look at when you're going to be looking at a kayak. What I will say is this kayak is 10.5 feet long. Good entry-level kayak. This is called a sit-in kayak, right? Because the cockpit, you sit down in the cockpit. It's not sit on top. One day I was out in the sound, and it was very windy. We had about 4 foot, 3 to 4 foot white caps, and I tell you, this thing handled really, really well. Felt solid. Although I would say I probably don't think this is big enough for the ocean. Simply because you've got larger waves out there, and you're going to get water coming in over the top. I just wouldn't feel comfortable out there in the wide open ocean with this. The transducer on the outside worked really well. Once again, I mounted this to the outside, and it held up really well. It's absolutely rock solid. Once again, I took the transducer, I mounted it to a mount, and I mounted the mount to the hull of the kayak. And the reason for that is basically if this breaks, and if I have to take the transducer and replace it, more than likely, if I get a new one, it's going to have a different mounting mechanism, which means I got to drill more holes versus just mounting it to the plate or putting a new mounting plate on here. And I just have 2 holes here, 1 hole in the bottom for the mounting plate to keep it secure. So anyways, that's the result. I'm absolutely loving it. Fantastic kayak for $350 with the accessories. And if you guys have any questions or anything, shoot me a comment on YouTube, and be happy to answer. Okay, happy kayaking.